Any announcements? Representative Singer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There was a comment, and this is an announcement, by the way. I'm announcing that I'm opening up my offices starting on Friday at 2 o'clock for the 38 protesters that came to the Capitol, as well as the sergeants and the State Patrol and the Denver Police Department, or anybody else who wishes to come and discuss what happened. Because after I heard that our institution was besmirched by civil disobedience, I felt that the 38 protesters needed a voice too. Civil disobedience has its role in a democracy. And when it was said from the well that this institution is greater than any one of us, I totally agree. But also at the same time, we remember that there's something greater than this institution, and that is the people. That is the people that produce the legislators that create this institution. There is nothing greater than the people, including this institution, because without them, we don't have an institution. The role of civil disobedience started with Gandhi in the salt marches. I'd like to think that actually my friends on the other side of the aisle would look at this anti-taxation effort that was undertook by the Indian people and look at the role and say that their institution was not besmirched by those salt marches. And the reason that I'm opening these office hours is I'm reminded of the civil disobedience of our own veterans in the 1930s under Herbert Hoover, who came to the White House steps, who came to the Capitol to ask for their war bonus during the Great Depression, and were not only turned away, but General Patton and General MacArthur met them with bayonets and bullets and tear gas. Just a year later, they came to that same seat of power under a different president, and that president set up camps for them to be in, arranged transportation for them to come to the Capitol. And instead of sending General MacArthur, he sent Eleanor Roosevelt. And they talked. And they didn't get their war bonus. But the protests didn't continue because they were offered entry into the Civilian Conservation Corps, even though they were too old to participate in it. They were offered transportation back to their homes if they wanted to leave the camps. They were offered an ear. And so I, in that spirit of Gandhi, in the spirit of Roosevelt, in the spirit of the countertops at Woolworths, want to provide that ear for the people who didn't present any physical danger to this building, with the possible exception, I saw some leaflets and there may have been some paper cuts. But at the end of the day, it's our sergeants who are trying to uphold this institution and follow the rules. But when you see kids and 18-year-olds charged and put into jail for over 24 hours with no idea what they're being charged with, when you see them assembled on the West Steps waiting to be carried away, not resisting arrest, being put into cars where there weren't even enough seatbelts, when you see that happen, I don't think the punishment fits the crime today. And by the way, for those 38 protesters, I've been on the phone. Charges have not yet been filed. What you received was what is in the arrest report. So those charges have not been filed. So when people are asking to drop the charges, let's remember that the charges have not yet been filed. But if those charges stick, I don't think 2 years and $7,500, that's not a punishment fitting the crime. If we see those charges filed, our First Amendment and our role of civil disobedience in this building, outside this building, will forever be chilled. I agree, and I participated in civil disobedience. I understand that when I sit at the GEO facility in their parking lot and block traffic, that I may get arrested. I understand that there is a role for civil disobedience, and I will not get let off the hook. But I also understand that the punishments must fit the crime, and when the First Amendment, the thing that got all of us here, is under attack, we need to be able to make sure that we are lending our ear to the folks that talked about what's happening at Bella Romero, what's happening in Commerce City, what's happening even in my own district where we found unsafe levels of benzene next to a school. Those voices need to be heard, and we need to be having a thoughtful conversation about how they're heard. But ultimately, this is my ask of all of us, is that we open up all of our offices at different times to not only listen to the protesters, but to listen to what our sergeants are saying, to what our Denver police is saying, because we need to figure out a better way to allow for civil disobedience to occur and make sure that people aren't thrown into jail for 30 hours. So with that, I look forward to pursuing this conversation even further. But my office is open starting Friday at 2 p.m. We'll do it again on Monday. We'll do it again the next Friday until everyone feels like they've had their voice heard. And it is my hope that our Denver District Attorney uses her best discretion to understand that these adults and children don't deserve to have a permanent mark on their record that could include 2 years in jail. That's chilling. And I'll close on this. When you're arrested, it's not like you march into a building and you march out. You're disrobed, you're viewed by other folks. This is about making sure that people feel safe in this building and feel safe out of this building exercising their First Amendment rights. And ultimately, having that conversation about what the role of civil disobedience is in this building so we can make sure that our meetings happen, that everyone gets a fair hearing, and that ultimately we uphold not only this institution but the people who create this institution. Thank you for your indulgence. I hope you join me at my meetings, and I hope we can have this conversation because I ultimately respect each and every one of you and want to make sure that all voices are heard. Thank you.
Representative McKean.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.